is effectively take out the peace movement. They are not members, you see. The churches are members because they have a senator. The unions are members, they have a senator. The business community, the chamber and the business bureau have a senator. And the NGO community have a senator. But the peace movement don't have anybody.
Okay.
Neither in the House nor the Senate, so they are
Who made
out.
that decision that it will only be members of the National Assembly, and what guided that decision?
That decision was made by the executive, meaning the cabinet. The prime minister and his cabinet made that decision.
So,
well, in fact, it's the prime minister because he's also the minister responsible for.
So do you believe then, if I can ask this question to you, is it then that the political parties who are going to place their scrutineers will be giving instructions, so to speak, as to what would be the leniency in allowing people to vote? If there are issues which may, where you may have issues that may arise, which may have some conflict, say, as you mentioned, the name, and so on and so forth.
and how would I know? Like, I know there's an issue with my card. So how would I know when I get there? And if that is not in the book, how will I know as a citizen before I leave from the
You will
space
not know.
if my vote will be valid
Don't know.
or not?
When you reach, you will know. Depending, if I know, and I am with the government, and let's be open and frank and fair with people. The government, because of the pressure of the international community, is going to support IS, and their political operatives, the UDP, are all going to be yes, and when it comes to election, they are very rabid. So, when somebody that they know is a no come there, they will do everything in their power to stop that person from voting. If you come there with a card here that has a wrong birth date, they will say, oh, but no man, that's not her birthday. Are you coming at
And
division?
what is Yaja's recourse of address at that point in time?
Ask for the binder. Go in the binder and see. Go in the binder and
But
see.
then if the card has a different birth of date than the binder,
The binder is correct. The card is wrong.
so basically what Yaya may have to do, and I'm just putting this out there, what Yaya may have to do is to take an additional identification. So Yaya may have to take a passport or a birth paper or something that can coincide. I'm just assuming, I
That
want it
is
to be
his
clear.
nose.
I do not speak on behalf of any election machinery or whatever.
No, but
But Yaya would have to be able to say, okay, my ID card, there was an error, and that error lies in the Elections and Boundaries Office because on the binder has the correct one, and this was the document which I took to verify
Yes.
my data, which
and
is
the
my
opposite
passport.
party, if she's a
Right.
no, then the PUP will have to intervene on her behalf and make nice.
But how does the PUP know if she's a no? The
But if
PUP
the
ought
UD
not to know that, and this is the point I'm getting
I
at.
am saying if it is well known, like everybody know who the villain, and me tell you from the beginning, no.
Yes,
as
you
long
will
as you
vote
come
no.
with this, no.
Okay.
I don't object to the ICJ, but I object to this, where they care. No. So everybody know me. I know, so they went try,
Let
but
me
they
ask,
know.
is there
But I
any
think
space?
it's a key issue. It's a key issue for people to know, because people are very passionate about this issue. People want to participate in this issue. I believe very strongly that there are many people who are eager, and there are people who have not aligned themselves to any political party or so. They discuss the issues independently of the political parties. So who will be there to advocate on their behalf? And I
Nobody.
think
That is up to
this
the
has to be addressed by the Chief Elections Officer.
It will not be addressed.
You are
She
saying it
cannot-
will not,
Man-
but I am saying maybe that rather than will, maybe it ought to be addressed before the election, so people know that at the end of the day, I am neither no nor yes, so nobody in there will know who me and how I going to vote.
But-
and if an issue should come up with my card, then there must be some process, because as a voter, that is my right.
I have
Yes.
another question. Does Belize have proxy votes?
Yes.
So what's the proxy vote process if I am not able to be here on that day to vote? And I'm not in the country.
All right. diplomatic people, I guess ambassadors. I don't know how far, I know it starts at the ambassador level. Policemen who are on duty. I register in Caribbean shows, I live in Caribbean shows, but for that day, they post me as a policeman to work in the Punta Gorda district. I have a right to a proxy, and somebody will vote for me in the Caribbean shows, because I can't be in Caribbean shows and Punta Gorda at the same time.
Use me for example. I won't be in the country on that day. How can I be assured that I can vote?
No proxy.
Yes, you will not be in the country on that day.
That is how, like, seriously?
No, you don't have none. That
No.
only the policeman cannot be in both places because the government.
It's all persons who have been appointed by the Elections and Boundaries Commission, office, to work that day. So it's
you
policemen,
see, but you
it
see
is
some of the flaws
public
in our
officers,
systems?
yes, and so on and so forth, and persons who are working on behalf of the people of Belize in embassies and consulates and so on.
And there are no
outside.
exceptions?
None.
No.
None. I've never been, never will.
So
Never.
Yaya Marin, citizen of Belize, by no fault of hers, was planning to be in Belize on April the 10th, right?
Date.
Sorry, no, it was the first date was April the 10th.
Oh, yeah, April, yes,
Was
yes,
planning
April 10th.
to be in Belize on April the 10th.
Yes.
Was all excited about going to vote for this referendum, made her professional and personal arrangements outside of that specific time period, only to find out that a referendum date got changed and she's no longer going to be here due to no fault of Yaya. Yaya will be disenfranchised
That's right.
from voting. And
That's
that
right.
goes for anybody who is not a person who works for the public service, because remember, in the election machinery process, it is public officers who are the gateway
Yes.
of our democracy. They are the gatekeepers of our democracy. So if you are not working in the public service and have not been assigned to work, then you will not get the opportunity for someone to vote by proxy for you.
I'm glad, I never knew that this is how we are spending the first half hour, but it's a useful first half hour. So I have another question. Bill, can you explain what Dickie and others have explained about there won't be, similar to general elections and municipal elections, where there's a count, where you can say at 12 o'clock, 400 people went to the polls, it's now 3 o'clock, 5 went. Can you elaborate on that some more, Bill? Because that is critical for us to understand. Wait, let me ask Caroline. Caroline, you understand?
I understand the
Caroline,
question. No, I understand the question, but Bill has more experience.
All right, go ahead,
The
Bill.
new law that passed the House recently, last week, the new law that passed the National Assembly, not the House and the Senate, the Governor General signed it, it's a new law. Section 7 of that law says that the returning officer will, at the end of the count, when the count is finished, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever, will turn it over to the chief election officer, who will compile it and give one result for the country. The country voted yes, the country voted no. 50,000 people came out and voted. 30,000 voted yes, 20,000 voted no. That's it. That's what the law says.
Now stick a pin, Bill. I don't have the law in front of me, but I recall exactly what you have said. The question I asked had to do, as far as I understood, with the process of voter turnout during the day. Now the law does not speak to that. The law speaks to the counting. Am I correct?
He says
So-
all information must go through the chief election officer.
Yes.
So you cannot go, like using Caribbean shores. You cannot go to EPER, which is the biggest part of the Caribbean shores division. Most people live there. Go to the returning officer and ask him or her, well, it's in the Amandala, who is the returning officer.
But could you have done that during the general election? No.
Yes, yes.
As far as I know, data is released from the election. I can be wrong here.
Yes,
Data is released from the Elections and Boundaries Office on an hourly basis, as to basically say, and as each constituency, they would be saying that so much % of the people in Caribbean Shores have voted, Alberta has voted, etc., and so on.
No, well,
that is not contained within that legislation at all. My understanding of that legislation is what you had said initially, that there won't be the constituency by constituency reporting insofar as the counting.
No, it's
not
no,
the
it's more than
voting.
The no, it's
And
more
I
than
can
the
be wrong,
counting.
but that was how I
No,
understood
it
it.
is more than the counting. And then the law, the last paragraphs of that law, out of hand completely, and we know.
That is the part about it being inconsistent.
Yes.
Well, that is totally.
That's
I
a
agree
crazy
with you.
excuse
What
for
are
the
they talking
law.
about? What are they
You
talking
study
about?
law and you know
What
that
on the
crazy.
talk about?
Okay, there's two things. You asked a question which I think perhaps, and I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, which at this point in time I am of a different opinion from Bill. You had asked the question as to what happened during the process, what happens during the day, how is the reporting going to take place, and you also asked the question regarding the fact that the law is saying that you will now have one reporting, right, of the counting of what has taken place. In other words, normally in a general elections or even in a municipal elections, you are able to, well, with the municipal elections, all the ballot boxes are brought into one place, but you're still counting constituency by constituency. So you're still getting kind of feedback as each constituency they come in. When it comes to the general elections, each constituency is counted, so you will get the results from Albert. You will get the results from Port Loyola. You will get the results from Curacao North, and so on and so forth. What that law is saying, as far as I understood it, is that you won't be getting a constituency by constituency counting. So, if at the end, when the whole process is over, we have counted the votes, you will not hear in Toledo West, 3,500 people went to the polls. Of that 3,500, 2,000 voted no, 1,500 voted yes. You won't get that. What you will get is at the end of the day, the aggregated numbers. So in the country of Belize on election day, blah, 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 98,000 people went to vote, 51,000 voted yes or no, and 40 or something thousand. So you're going to get the aggregate and not the constituency by constituency. The issue with that becomes, how do you make a determination as to how different constituencies and different districts responded to the question? Because I think any political analyst and any political party would want to know what transpired in that whole process.
I have the law right here.
So yes,
well, let me ask,
yes,
before I read the law,
that-
let me ask, was that done intentionally? Did they, like, how did that happen that you won't have that aggregate and before we did? Was that done intentionally in the writing of this new law?
I
You think
believe it was
anything's
done
happened?
intentionally,
It's intentional.
and I believe, from my standpoint, I believe that it was intentionally for a purpose. But I also believe that, look at the fact that you have a government that has, to some extent, dominated the conversation, dominated the narrative on the ICJ. So, in my opinion, I do believe that at some point in time, they will still have access to those constituency by constituency.
Before Bill read, just make I read this then text will come in, Bill, and then I'll make you go ahead.
Okay.
In fact, I'll make Bill wait till the second segment because I want to stay tuned. It's a hot show. Listen to the text where will come in. And this person sent several. It said, there are persons known as information officers who will be at all polling stations to assist with queries, who will also be given ID cards, not pick up from the office. Be careful of who is on the list, because the voters will be allowed to go to them first before presenting themselves to the presiding officer. Shaking my head. The next text say, but the PUP will be in the counting room. Why can't they text out and reveal the results? Stick a pin, we're going to our first break, we are coming right back. Hot show! Bill.
For we leaders sign one agreement for go to court for any and all legal claim. So here where Guatemala they claim. They claim
we looked at practical concerns heading into the referendum scheduled for May 8, 2019, 10 days away. And we're asking things such as, if you're not a part of the workforce for the government of Belize and you won't be in country, is there a proxy process? There is not. So that's one way that Belizeans are being disenfranchised. For those Belizeans who are living abroad and are not able to come home to vote, that's another way that Belizeans are being disenfranchised to vote. If there is an error on your voter ID card and is cross-referenced against the binder, and you are not recognized as someone with a position on this question, there isn't an advocate on your behalf, as opposed to if you're recognized as someone who may have a particular position. Since both political parties will be there as scrutineers, you may have someone to advocate on your behalf. Bill is going to read, because I want to know that we're in a portion of the new bill, the referendum bill, that we should be concerned about. Bill.
He says, Article 7(1), the Election and Boundaries Commission shall appoint returning officers for each electoral division in the country of Belize. 2, subject to the directions of the Chief Election Officer, it shall be the duty of the returning officer within his electoral division to do all things as may be necessary for effectively conducting the referendum and the counting of the votes cast. 3, the returning officer shall not declare the results of the ballot in his electoral division, but shall certify to the Chief Election Officer A, the total number of ballot papers counted, B, the total number of votes cast for and against the proposition in his electoral division or area, and the Chief Election Officer shall issue a certificate stating the results of the referendum in the entire country. Then he goes on and tell you 8, that the referendum shall be decided simple majority, and then 12, this is the last section of the Belize Territorial Dispute Referendum Act 2019. If there is a inconsistency between the provisions of this act and provisions of any other law, the provisions of this act shall prevail. Now, the law and people who know law or have an opinion about law, very upset about this 12.
Yes.
Because this, they act like this is the Constitution.
Wait, Bill. Me not understand nothing what you just done read. I hear with me is, but you know you have to block that down in a
all right.
make we understand it.
Section 7 is saying...
Yes.
Section 7 is saying that the way how normal elections are held in Belize when we have elections will not be this way. It will follow this one.
But I think what has to be clear is that what are the distinctions, Bill? And
the
I
difference.
think, yes, yeah, because normally this is how it is done, and this is what makes it different from how it's normally done.
Normally how it's done, the returning officer give the results in his area.
Right.
Give results, he give during the course of the day, the polls open at 7, and by 9 o'clock he will give a result, he or she will give a result and say, well, for Pickstack Division, 230 people came and voted.
And it was done at the counting station for the division itself.
And at the end of the day, when the count is finished, the returning officer will certify that in Pickstack Division, 2,000 people came and voted. 1,000 voted yes and 1,000 voted no, and that's the end, and that will be made public. The media, everybody will have access to that. No, this section 7 of the new law changes that. He will not give no result to nobody. The law is saying that, but indirectly the games we play with the language for liars. Then we say, oh, you need a liar, man. That's why we need a liar to interpret what the words they say. But the words they tell you.
Who has taken us around the bush.
Let me ask.
And then you see section 12 is saying clearly, that is why section 7, that what is said here stands. Because if it's inconsistent with any other law, and it is inconsistent with the referendum or the People's Act, and it is inconsistent with the Constitution of Belize. But this act is presenting itself as the ultimate law. No, man, the ultimate law is the Constitution of Belize, not this foolishness.
So based on what you're saying, Bill, because I asked Dickie this 2 weeks ago Sunday and he wasn't clear. What I need to understand is, if this recent referendum bill trumps, take precedent over the first referendum law we had, or do they carry equal weight? I don't know. Any I want to know?
This one is telling you which one comes?
Yes.
This is it?
What this law is saying, and to add to what Bill is saying, is that Belize has a constitution that governs how we, that basically contains all the provisions as to how we are governed. So, and that the law, the primary law in this land is the Constitution of Belize. It is from the Constitution that everything else flows. So every other law that is enacted flows from the Constitution. And the general rule of that is that any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution of Belize, the Constitution of Belize shall prevail. So from that first standpoint, when this law is saying that if there is inconsistency between the provisions of this act and the provision of any other law, the provisions of this act shall prevail, that by itself cannot be, because this law cannot trump the Constitution of Belize. No. It can trump any other law other than the Constitution of Belize. And I am saying it can. It doesn't mean it will.
Yes.
It can, and that's the fodder for the legal people, because they love these things, because then when they go argue and make them $750 an hour and $1,000 an hour, and so they will like that, so they will go around the bush now with this kind of thing. But if there is an inconsistency between this and, let us say, the referendum act, which is, I think, is chapter 10, or if I'm not
the 1999
right, chapter, then this law will prevail.
Good.
As it relates to other, but the way they have made the statement is that they have reached every act of parliament, of which the Constitution is one, and to which this law cannot trump.
Let
the
me
Constitution
ask,
of Belize.
what's the importance of the court case tomorrow, Bill? Please explain so we can understand it clearly.
The court case tomorrow, regardless of what the UDP have been saying, is that the Chief Justice, there was two things when the PUP went to court, two things. One, that you broke the Referendum Act because you lied to the people of Belize and to everybody and saying that there was a settlement with Guatemala. There is no settlement. But you went under that provision. You lied. You broke the law. Simple. I catch you the thief, you're a thief. Done. Don't tell me no fool about technicalities. That's what the Attorney General and then come with. There's no technicality, man. You broke the law because there's no settlement with Guatemala. If there's a settlement, show me the terms, show me the condition. There's none. But you broke the law. So what you did now, instead of just go back and say, well, we're going now on a different section of the referendum where the National Assembly could declare it. No, you come now with one new thing, a whole new law, where they put one whole lot of things were inconsistent. Now you come with this special agreement and tell me this trump my Constitution. You're out of your mind.
Okay, what are the second thing? It's a two thing.
The other thing was whether or not this trumps the Constitution of Belize. The CJ said he will not rule on that regarding an injunction because there's too many ifs, too much supposition. They suppose, one, the people going to vote yes, and secondly, they suppose that the ICJ will give away land. He said, no, it may be possible, but we don't know. We don't reach that yet. But then there's a problem with that. Suppose the people vote yes, and suppose the ICJ give away half of the country. What you want about it? Because under this we are going to sign and make the Senate ratify, what you are doing is you are saying to the world,
Remember, the
this,
Senate don't ratify.
no, the Senate ratified this?
The Senate, the ratification is done by the executive.
All right, sorry, yes, the Senate only
Yes.
make it legal.
The
for-
Senate ratified, but they don't really
they
have
don't
an
ratify the
authority, yes.
ratification that the executive, the
Right.
foreign minister do that, sorry. Anyway, when you go back, if the people go vote yes, and the ICJ decide to give away half of the country to Guatemala, you could holler constitution, you could holler anything. The point is, you are going to lose half of Belize. End of story. Because this thing is an international treaty. And it
Bill.
international
Bill.
treaty.
Two
International treaty trumps domestic law.
Bill.
Unless, unless
Uh-huh.
you are the United States of America, you are Russia, or you are the People's Republic of China, or you are India. Only those 4 countries in this world says and can enforce. Say whatever no one treaty.
Why therefore?
Because of power, military and economic power.
They're not because of the veto
I
privilege.
will-
of
No,
Security
and
Council.
that will, no, India no got veto, but the veto makes it better. 3 of them got veto power in the UN when nobody else got.
Bill, I will stick
That
a
was
pin.
serious thing on the play with.
I will stick a pin on something that you said, and I stand corrected. International treaties cannot trump
Domestic law?
domestic law.
It does. It does.
International treaties.
1 second.
cannot
Belize
trump-
Times, I don't know usually quote from it, page 19 say, Guatemala's territorial claim has been locked. I'm glad you bring it up. And this is by Dr. Gerald Zuniga, Political Science Studies, Universidad de San Carlos de Guatemala, y Universidad Mariano Galvez, Guatemala City. This is one of the things what he say. It says, our constitution is above international law. If international law would be above constitutions, that would be chaos and gross disrespect. Then it wouldn't be United Nations, rather one nation, which some dream of for their personal interests and agenda. However, in matters related to
Human
human rights, international agreements takes preeminence, and this is with the objective of avoiding the institutionalization of violations of human rights like genocide. So I think excellent point you're making, and reinforce it that we have
And-
clarity on that.
Yes,
And
but you
let me
see there's
also
a-
say, let me
but
also say
careful.
that even in matters of human rights issues, what international treaties and conventions they're used as guides, and the court tend to lean towards such provisions in terms of interpreting, but it still boils down to interpreting your constitution. And that is the issue why Bill and the other persons of legal prominence are saying that you cannot have a piece of law that is saying to you that 2 things. One, that any other law that is inconsistent with it, that this will trump it. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, you cannot have a piece of legislation that is basically putting in it the issue of giving another external authority the right to change the borders, because that is embedded in your constitution, that if there's going to be any change to the borders, the territory of Belize, that has to go to the people in a constitutional amendment.
Yes.
And once it goes as a constitutional amendment, then there is a 90-day period, and that has to go out to the people of Belize because the Constitution is very clear as to what can happen if you want to amend your constitutions. There are certain provisions that you can amend by majority. There are certain provisions that you have to amend with 2/3 or
Yes.
3/4.
Uh-huh.
And I think the very gist of where the court case came out is that basically what they're saying is that you want to take something to the Belizean people that has not been settled yet, right? Because we have no settlement.
There's no settlement.
Right? But you want the Belizean people to give up their rights, so to speak, to a court, an international court, to make a decision which has the potential, it is not saying that it will, but has the potential to make a recommendation to adjust the borders of this country. But even if that recommendation is made, and you have at Article 5 where it says the decision of the court as final and binding,
Yes.
it is binding between countries but not by the people of Belize. Because even if the ICJ should rule in some way, shape or form that we may, and I use the word may because remember, when you say all and any, we can have the extreme of the whole country.
That's right.
The 8,867 square miles, plus the other 8,000 and add whether the territorial seas and so on and so forth. Or you could just have one sliver or one little piece. Or you could get nothing.
Yeah.
So there's an extreme there, you understand, from one extreme to the next. So even if it comes up that the matter should go to the ICJ, and even if the ICJ should say, you know, Belize must, in order to settle this claim, this unfounded claim of Guatemala, must cede some territory, whether it's 1 square mile, 1 blade of grass, 1 square centimeter, whatever, that still has to go back to the people of Belize by virtue of our constitution, because our constitution is saying that any amendment to Schedule 1, I think Schedule 1 is our, any amendment must go to the people of Belize.
Yes, but you see, that
and I think that is where the whole inconsistency is starting to emerge, because you're asking the people of Belize to do something which will still have to come back.
It won't come back because of the power relations at day to day.
Well, you are making the assumption, and you have a right to do that. Experience, global experience and geopolitically tell us that there are certain countries that control the Security Council, so on and so forth. And I can understand that. But if we
But it's more than the Security
Council.
Council?
But if we go by the law, the constitution of this country, by which each and every one of us must abide by. As a citizen, Yaya, you have no duty or obligation to abide by any convention the government of Belize go out there and sign. Absolutely none. Because anything the government of Belize go out there and sign, they must come back and domesticate it. Treaties are between countries. Laws that are enacted in our National Assembly are the laws that apply to you as a citizen of this country.
I wanted to
But
touch on breaking Belize news dated April 11th. Christian, bring it up directly. 2019, and it says President Morales of Guatemala calls on Belize to conduct ICJ referendum. But in the closing paragraph, based on something what Caroline just said, I could scroll down, Christy, this is the way he said, last paragraph. Morales also said that experts had told him that the Guatemalan map should only include half of Belize, but Guatemala's claim is the entire territory. So, as well as
gonna say any and all that you do it, you open the door.
Open, that's right. You
right,
open
and
the
as
open the
well
door
as
with this.
Krista, bring up that clip for me with this one clip with Dickie Bradley from Channel 5, and this and I encourage Krem TV for play this clip. Telling them tired I see to hear it. And there's another, and this is please explain who our brother who has transitioned Gandhi. Explain who our brother Gandhi is. Why it's worth our time to listen to his thoughts on the legal opinion. Can you just frame this clip coming up for us?
All right. You're going to do the clip?
The clip is going to come
All
up,
right.
yes.
Oh, you want me to speak before
No,
the clip?
yes, before the clip, so people know who Brother Gandhi was.
Gian Gandhi served in Belize as a Solicitor General and legal counsel to the government. In fact, on all matters that the legal matters that the government had to review, they sought his counsel, and he would provide such counsel. He is known, he's eminently known, well researched, and has lived in Belize for decades, I think, and in fact died in Belize.
Yes.
And so his knowledge and wealth of information has always been well regarded. And so one must take into consideration what he has to say.
Okay,
I will tell you two things about him.
Yes.
I know him very, very good because I had dealings with him during the Musa administration. The 1999 to 2008, I knew him well. I had dealings with him, so I know him. And I know one attorney general tried to fire him. But the instructions came from Whitehall. You know where's Whitehall? London, England, United Kingdom. Instructions came. I saw it. I could say what I see.
So there are times when you agree with what England say, and there are times when it doesn't suit you,
I know they
you not
agree.
rate it.
I know that, no, I know they agree. I did tell you
Okay.
that
What happened?
what happened, instructions, he is not to be fired. This man was not an ordinary man. He was a special man.
Okay.
Because I know certain things I know one
what else
what
is
happened
new?
with one certain
I think
case
as it regards,
where Hanky-Panky Ghana win.
well, again, be
There
mindful.
were big man then.
Be mindful, yes, but let us be mindful.
Very powerful
You know,
man.
I always say I don't practice the law because I consider it an inherently dishonest profession. And that's a fact.
But tell the other one,
Hold
degree
on.
law.
Yes, I do.
Tell
But
them.
I use my degree and I share my knowledge with people.
Uh-huh.
When you're an attorney, your job is to present the case on behalf of your client. So at all times, Mr. Gandhi spoke on behalf of his client. And who is his client? The government of Belize. Whether that government is a PUP government or a UDP government or whichever combination of government, the government was his client. So his job was to advise the government. Now, when Mr. Gandhi advises the government, as far as I am aware, Mr. Gandhi will lay out the case. And I have had numerous occurrences with him, as Bill said. And one thing I learned from Mr. Gandhi used to say, facts, facts, not emotions, facts. So he will lay out the facts for you. And the facts will have your arguments for and your arguments against. Now, clearly in this particular case, he was sharing what would have been some of the issues that he flagged that the government ought to take into consideration. Now, if Gandhi had to go to court, you never may want to say that. Because Gandhi may go in with the case for the government. You get what I'm saying? So I get where Bill
And
is
it depends on which government it was and what
Yes,
that government's
man.
position was.
And he was so good that if he drafted the law for one government, and if there's another government that came in, and that government had issues with that law, he was going to find out the ways in which that law could have been
Who
some
paid the
holes.
piper, call it tune? Run that clip,
That
Christy.
is the issue. It doesn't in any way discount
Right.
his provisions and his because, as I said, he makes his case to the government
Right.
on the facts of the case.
And these are his thoughts on when is it said that it's the legal opinion? What legal opinion?
That he was speaking to.
Yes.
I haven't seen the full,
No,
but
but
it
this
was.
is-
It's the special agreement
Yes.
that he was
Special
giving.
agreement.
Okay,
Yes,
so here's the
quite
clip from Brother Dickie Bradley at Channel 5 some weeks ago.
Gian Gandhi in March of 2009 comes from India and took this country as his beloved country. He stayed here and worked with change of governments. They don't like him and like him. He's excellent. He's extra. What's the word? He's exceptionally good public officer. Mr. Gandhi wrote advising the government of Belize, the Prime Minister of Belize, on the 12th of March 2009. No matter what the strength of Belize's case may be under international law, the possibility of some territorial adjustment by Belize cannot be ruled out. In fact, it would be surprising to the point of incredulity, incredible, unbelievable, if the ICJ adjudication were to result in a wholesale rejection of Guatemala's claim. It would be incredible if that should happen, given the nature and the composition of the International Court of Justice. It follows that the possible alteration of Belize's existing boundaries, as set out in Schedule 1 of the Constitution, consequent upon the ICJ adjudication, is a live issue and must be fully addressed before any steps are taken to ratify the special agreement.
That's a major...
And this is from?
Wow.
Gian Gandhi, who was the former Solicitor General
Yes.
of Belize, extraordinary.
No, printed where?
one. In his legal opinion to the Prime Minister of Belize in March of 2009, he also said this, and I don't like
It's never been shared before.
After seeing Sir Eli's response, Mr. Gandhi wrote on the 13th of March 2009, he thought that view was overconfident of Belize's case, and he pointed to Sir Eli's admission that, quoting, there is always a risk of losing in court proceedings. That is, he's quoting from Sir Eli, remote as in be in the present case. In Mr. Gandhi's view, quote again, this is Gandhi, it would not be enough to tell the Belizeans that Belize has an exceptionally strong case on the merits. Belizeans would want a cast iron guarantee that there would be no loss of Belizean territory in any circumstances. Sir Eli, Gandhi says, candidly admits that the court is not always predictable and that he, Sir Eli, could be wrong. Why were we not told this? This was in writing from March 2009. You know what they do?
Where do you get it?
Yeah.
I can't reveal my sources, but
But it's never been published.
Well, it's published now.
But we can't verify it either. If we
well,
bring
you
it.
can now verify it.
The referendum, the 8th, but I'll play it again before we come off of the air. I think it's important for Belizeans to hear what are the possible risks. Before we go to break, we also have an opinion by Dennis Barrow. What was it that he said in essence to your understanding that is a possible risk? What is your understanding?
As far as I have seen, I think what Dennis Barrow was referring to was also Gandhi's Gandhi's statement,
Right.
which basically is saying to the government, you have to be honest with the Belizean people and let them know that there are risks to going to the ICJ. What are these risks? As I have said previously, it can be the whole country or it can be nothing. But somewhere in between, Gandhi and Barrow and Sir Eli and everybody is saying we are being naive if we think we are going to go to the court and that something is not going to happen. It doesn't mean that something will. But the probability, the likelihood of something happening, we are being naive when we say to the Belizean people, oh, we have an ironclad case and nothing is going to happen and we are not going to lose. We are being dishonest. And Barrow is saying it, Dennis Barrow, Gandhi is saying it, and even the point that Sir Eli, I think he made comment that said the court is unpredictable. The injunction, let us just look at the local court right here. My understanding, and I can be wrong, my understanding is that the government's case led by senior counsel Lisa Schumann and so on and so forth had about 25 precedents as to why that injunction should not have been issued. And I understand the Amon Courtney senior counsel had none. But the court still rule.
It shows the unpredictability of the court.
Exactly. Now they say the court will go to the left and to the right, and at somewhere it will balance. But the point is, we must never exclude the possibility. Right? There is the possibility are endless. Now the probability, we might say that, you know, yes, we are going to the court. Yes, there's a possibility, but the probability based on the arguments might not. But let the Belizean people be honest. And I think that is what everybody is asking for.
But
honesty.
wait, as you said that, the Bar Association just gone and get one eminent man from Jamaica when nobody can quarrel with. And everybody's, the ones with the yes, ignore the man conclusion.
Yes.
And he's saying straight out my conclusion, there is no way you can say this will happen.
Yeah, you cannot.
He said because
It's the
careful,
nature of the court. That's how
People-
precedents are made. The court
people,
goes against
who
the
done the
grain.
court? The court done not.
People.
So the people.
Human beings.
Yes. And you
um,
know this one, this same one from Wisconsin where Jews and they bring up? You go check, Google him. And you know what I tell you about that man? He's an eminent man, he made there with the IMF, he made there all about. But he always ruled consistent in support of his country. Who is his country? United States of America. Wherever the United States
And
of
I
America
think-
want to go, that's where he goes. So please, with a human, they're not God with the deal with that human being, and this man is an American, so we want for now.
But I think we
we want-
also have to look at it from a different perspective, Bill, not the individuals as much as Belize and our knowledge of the process. I think all of that we have neglected because we have not had the conversation with the Belizean people from the very onset. In 1981, we became independent. As Dr. Zuniga said, we became a member of the United Nations. We're a member of CARICOM. So there's a process of the CCJ. You go into the CCJ, Caribbean Court of Justice. As a member of the global community, we go to the ICJ. We don't understand that process. We don't understand the ICJ. We don't understand how the courts, even within our own society in Belize, because it starts from here. Our Supreme Court judges are human beings.
Yeah.
The Court of Appeal judges are human beings. The Caribbean Court of Justice are human beings, and the International Court of Justice, they're human beings. Now, as you're quite right to say, if I am a Belizean and I go on the court, then clearly if I am a hardcore DNA'd Belizean, I want to think, Belize, what am I country, what am I? So you can't exclude that subjectivity from any member of the court at any level. And I think if the Belizean people get a sense of this, it doesn't mean that any judge who sits on the court, whether from the UK, from the US, from China, from wherever, we can't say that any judge is going to be partial, because that is not what the process. We have to have some trust and confidence, but we don't even have it in our own.
Respect. Before we go, I have to say this, and we're going to break, which we're overdue on. I think Attorney Senator Courtney may have said this in the House, that the Senate, I'm not sure, but it make the point, and I just bring news. I don't know. They make this news article that Christian has shown right now is dated Thursday, April 11, 2019. And the news story reads, court overturns referendum as voters were poorly informed in Switzerland. So bring up that, and this is the way it say, in a ruling that may resonate in Britain, where Remain campaigners have long argued that voters in the 2016 Brexit referendum were not adequately informed, the court said incomplete detail and a lack of transparency had violated the freedom of the vote, which could now be rerun. Quote, given the tight outcome of the vote and the seriousness of the irregularities, it is possible that the result of the ballots could have been different, end quote, the federal court said. It was the first time a result had been annulled in Switzerland, where voters have been called to vote more than 300 times on over 600 federal level referendum proposals since 1848. Evidence again of unpredictability in court decisions. Break time, we'll be right back.
For we leaders sign one agreement for go to court for any and all legal claim. So here where Guatemala they claim. They claim all, everything, Taurus. They claim Sastoon River, Columbia River, Mullins River, Siboon River, Mopan River, Macal River, Belize River, New River, plus all of the creek there, Stan Creek, Rowan Creek, Barton Creek, Mango Creek, even Creek and South Creek, and all the canal there, down to the canal, all the canal there, boss. Barranco, PG, Hopkins, Saint Bite, Placencia, all the beach there, all the sand there, all the coconut tree there.
Down to the sand bedroom?
You know hear them they claim everything? All the orange in a Pomona, all the sugar cane in a Sugar City, calves key, English key, tobacco key, silk key, all the long key there.
Boss, this thing sick.
Sick, that not the word. All of the bank there, St. Paul's Bank, Flowers Bank, Willows Bank, Young Bank, all the bank there, they claim the cemetery where we people there bury.
You mean down to Lord Rich them people that they claim?
Yes, bedrin, this other need one part 2 to finish call all the claim. What a evil and dirty claim. And now we talk about legal claim. No boy can pay me if he say yes to the ICJ.
Tired of replacing light bulbs? LEDs are what you need. LEDs last up to 30,000 hours. That's 30 times longer than incandescent bulbs, and up to 8 times longer than compact fluorescents. So less changing and less trash. Planet Earth thanks you. And the LED experts at Brothers Habet and Habet will help you find the best LED solution with colors for every room and mood, starting as low as $6.95. You can even get LED strips for home, office, and industrial use. So say goodbye to fluorescent tubes forever. And because they use up to 90% less energy, you save money. Money you can spend on other things. So head to Brothers Habet or Habet and Habet today. You can also call, email, or Facebook us. Have a brilliant day.
I listen to new song on the radio from our city. On the radio. Why this song hard? Why this catchy?
More music on the radio. More music on the radio. Elysian music on the radio. When I play it now, I play it loud. We need more music on the radio. More music on the radio. Elysian music on the radio. Tell the DJ them to play it loud. Hey, yeah man, real thing on the radio.
Smart, your full service telecom provider. Come listen to me. I wanna show you what smart telecom feels like. Just listen to me. They know what you need for your home and your business. I know you're ready for the broadband data. We know that you want it, we better. Come with we, yeah. If you know you wanna come get all the services that we have. Mobile data, yeah, we got it. Dedicated roaming, broadband, internet, we got it. Dedicated roaming, mobile data, yeah, we got it. All your telecom needs, Smart got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble! In this corner, we have the government of Guatemala, aka Unfounded Claim. In their last fight, they knocked out the United Nations out of their country. And in the opposite corner, the challenger, the government of Belize, aka Ironclad. This challenger has never won an international fight. They have been knocked out of the English court, the American courts, and even their own backyard, the Caribbean court.
Yo, announcer boy, this challenger again knocked out right here in their own Supreme Court. This fight look like a set up to me. No boy can set me up for say yes to the ICJ.
Love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Bad love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a fi we, we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a fi we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it, sir. Don't tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head and the Belize and dollar because this a fi we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Come on. This a fi we da fear.
All right, welcome back to the third segment of Sunday Review. Yaya, Bill, and Carolyn. I sent for Carolyn for a specific reason because I really need this cleared up. when my brother Sidley Leslie was on a couple weeks ago, he made the point that the 1859 treaty is not the most legal treaty, that the most legal treaty is the special agreement. And then he shared it with, and Christy will bring it up now, and this is why it's good to have these conversations, because people have different interpretations. And he shared the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. You could bring it up for me, please, Christy. Article 59, termination on suspension of the operation of a treaty implied by conclusion of a later treaty. When Brother Dickey was on, who's a practicing attorney, he said, no, that interpretation or explanation from Brother Sidley was wrong. That's what he said. Somebody else contacted, Carolyn was texting it at the time. I never understand, because we don't understand legal jargon. Somebody else contacted me and said what Carolyn was saying is worth listening to. And so that's one of the reasons why I bring Carolyn today before we go in our referendum in 10 days. Because my understanding from Brother Sidley was the 1859 treaty was valid from our independence until this special agreement was signed, because my understanding is that this special agreement is this is the document the judges, if most Belizeans vote to go to the ICJ, will use to make their final decision, this document. But when you listen to the information from the people who are responsible for sharing the information, what you hear them talk about over and over again is that 1859 treaty. It says that no worry about nothing, this 1859 treaty is solid, that this will make we stand the chance of winning at ICJ. Carolyn, if I misunderstand it, come in and know a lot of things, please explain it to me. Which treaty is the land treaty where the judges they want to use for decide what happened to we of a weak country if the majority of Belizeans vote for go to the ICJ?
Yeah, you throw a big one for me.
And you can have big shoulders?
After big people, big senior council people, they argue these things. But I think there's a couple of things we must appreciate and understand. And let me say clearly that I am no expert in international law. I keep saying I am qualified as an, have a law degree, but I do not practice the law. On the issue, one of Dickey's points that Dickey was making was what we would call one of the general principles of the law. Meaning that if only people who are parties to a contract can act on a contract. Meaning the first agreement that was done, which was the 1859 treaty, was a treaty between the United Kingdom and Guatemala. That is why it was called the Anglo-Guatemalan Treaty. So the issue then becomes what happens now that Belize have become independent. Be mindful that when we became independent, we adopted a constitution. And within that constitution, the provisions of the 1859 treaty, as it relates to the borders, were incorporated into our domestic law.
I don't understand. Not we just don't say. Talk to me in a Creole. Tell me the thing again. Adopted the constitution. What are you talking about?
Let me put it this way. In 1981, we became an independent Belize. Prior to 1981, the laws that we had on our books were laws that we inherited to a large extent from the UK. Yes, so up until 1981, we were a colony. And yes, we had laws that according to, we did have a National Assembly, which was incorporating, enacting laws, as our National Assembly does. But that was all done within the context of us being a colony of Great Britain. We did not have a constitution. Come 1981, we have a constitution. That's a domestic law. A domestic law is a law that is enacted in your country, in
what
your...
What enacting mean?
It comes into effect. It is passed. It will now apply to you. It will now apply to you. So if I enact a law where say to steal a chair is a crime, that means you can be charged with a crime of stealing a law in Belize. So, when we had our constitution, if you noted, and it's the same point Dr. Zuniga was raising, was that when that constitution became enacted, the contents of that 1859 treaty that sets out the border between Belize and Guatemala was incorporated into our constitution.
Tell us how to use big words, use words that we can understand.
It was contained, put into the constitution.
Right, that's all I have to say, man. Talk to us so we understand.
All right, fine. Work with me, Yaya. Work with me.
No, you work with me.
Right,
And then you can't talk, make we understand.
I work with you, but sometimes we have to try to do things in, that can do a balance. Okay, so that is now in our constitution. So that now applies to us as a people. So that's one. The issue now of the special agreement, and this is where the legality and the interpretation that we have been discussing here today has unearthed some deficient.
Unearthed mean?
It bring out.
All right.
It bring out some deficiencies that some legal experts are saying.
That's a big word, people know.
Deficiencies. Some gaps, some problem areas.
All right, gotcha.
That certain legal experts are saying ought not to be. The special agreement is an agreement between the Guatemala and and Belize. That's why they had to carry it to the National Assembly to put it into law so it could apply to we. No. Even in putting that into law, the issue, the argument, the interpretation of it is subject to who they interpret it. Because what it is now been said is that this cannot be supersede, or it cannot trump the Constitution, which does set out what the borders of Belize are. Right? So when the person is saying, well, Love Vienna is saying that the later treaties come into play, right? Be mindful that, go right back to the point that I had said to Bill earlier, international agreements are between countries. If you want it to apply to your country, you must take it to the National Assembly. What the government has done is taken the special agreement to the National Assembly. But even in taking it to the National Assembly, it is alleged that there are some faults, some problems with it, because you can't take a matter which is about the border that is rooted in the 1859 treaty and say that it is now inconsistent with the... It doesn't work.
No, but wait.
I don't know how much, and I'm trying, I think, in some ways to put it, but what Dickie's point was simply, right, and as you said it, what Dickie's in the issue was, no, this Vienna thing can't supersede this, as far as I understand, that was what you said. He was saying it can't supersede the 1859.
But it has.
Right? But the 1859 was was put into a constitution. The special agreement has now just been put into law, but cannot trump the constitution.
It can, because...
You just said a special agreement to trump the constitution?
Yes.
Well, then you are agreeing with the point in the thing where say the referendum act where say if any law is inconsistent.
But that's why it was
you
done.
Are agreeing.
Wait, make I explain. The new law. The new law, section 12 say that anything, any law, this comes first. Wait. Now section 3. This is a part of the big problem everybody have with this. That's not the same way I read that 3. In 3, it is taking this special agreement and putting it in the law of Belize, because it is now part of the law of Belize.
Yes, we agree to that. We are not disproving that.
Yes, but that is wrong.
As to whether it will trump the Constitution is the issue that is up for interpretation.
That will happen tomorrow, Monday. The Supreme Court, before the Honorable Chief Justice, will decide now, because what they did was, instead of going to start one new application for go to the Supreme Court, you already had an application. So all they did was they amend, and they don't need permission for amend because they want constitute. They amend the thing where they had already, And when they had one
they
pass,
join it, like they join
what they do, they take the two things,
put it
the
together.
old thing and the new thing, and put it together now. And now the CJ have to hear both things, and he will have to hear the Section 3 where Barrow did.
This
what
is,
the Barrow
this
government
is one of the
did.
things that, because I hear on it, but I still laugh. This is one of the things we want to know. Does it mean, right, that because the date for the old referendum don't pass, right, that means that the one dead issue? Does that mean that or no?
It is a mute issue because
that's a mute issue.
That was in respect of a
all right. So this is the way we assault a road. If the Chief Justice put to an injunction, and even though that date gone, that means we don't want to hear nothing else but that injunction, and then they set to a new date. Is that what that means? That we don't understand out a road.
Wait. You have two sides tomorrow. You have the government and you have the so-called PUP with Mr. Courtney.
What you want to say so-called PUP?
Because there were issue amongst Belizeans, man, you know, one PUP issue, there were issue about our rights as citizens of a country.
Okay, go ahead.
Whether the government have the right to trample on our rights and do what they want. So that's why they said it's so-called, because I know a PUP, there were issue of citizen, being a citizen of Belize, your right as a citizen. Not to be trampled by the government. The government don't have no right to tell me where I eat.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Anyway, tomorrow, the government side, Miss Lisa Schumann, and I guess Mr. Williams, Radwell has joined the team with the government. They will argue that the Chief Justice should now make an order setting aside the injunction. Because a new law has come which supersede and will nullify the whole issue. And they not broke the law anymore. Because they didn't say anymore that there was an agreement with Guatemala. They not say that, so set it aside. The injunction still stand. You know, got no way.
Okay, good.
He could set any date he want.
Okay.
But if that injunction not get removed, no referendum will
You're
be.
Sure of that, Bill?
Well, I can't say
okay.
100
so that's what we need clarity. And so there's a possibility that the Chief Justice could say that injunction stands, so no referendum the 8th.
That's right. That's
okay,
right.
I mean, we'll clarify that. No, that will be the government position.
That the government position.
No, what the other side could say?
The other side is saying that the new law we are coming with worse than we are coming with before. Because now you have to trample upon all of my rights. You have to take this document and make it part of it. You have taken it, made it, where you say domesticated, make it part of Belizean law. But you can't do this because they violate my rights as a citizen. I have the right as a citizen of this country to vote on any agreement you make with Guatemala. But what you are doing now is taking away my right and giving it to a group of foreign judges to decide what are my boundaries with Guatemala. You're facing. That because of the problem we got with the Europeans and the Americans and the British, and we don't need no proof. Then at the proof, then come itself and say, in the press release.
It's a chicken and egg situation, where the government is saying that passes a special agreement that basically is going to say, take this settlement to the court when the Constitution, which has within embedded, not just that take the settlement, it also says that it is giving the ICJ the right to make a final and binding decision as to what our borders are to be. Now we don't know what that decision is yet.
No.
And in order to make that kind of change to our borders, we must go to the National Assembly through a constitutional amendment. So it's like a chicken and egg, because they want you to do something, but then they don't have what it is for you to do.
I need clarity on this as well. So I want to make sure we're going to make this plain. Whenever we have the referendum, whatever the results are, is it binding to this government? If the majority of Belizeans go out and say, no, we don't want to go to the ICJ, the government legally have to do what we say, or they don't have to do what we say?
That's a tricky question. You know why? The 1999 referendum is not binding on nobody. Mr. Barrow made sure that it's advisory. It's like Brexit. Brexit is not binding on the British people. The British Parliament, that's why they have so much trouble. Because in their law, their system, it is the Parliament that is supreme. Not the people, not the court, the Parliament there is supreme. Not in Belize. Because Judge Price made sure here that it is 3 equal branches. Legislative, we go talk about money, judiciary and executive. Now, Mr. Barrow has been trying to make Parliament supreme in Belize. He has not succeeded yet, but he's close to getting that way. But that's why everything stopped him when the PUP decided, no, none of that. We're going to court, make the court, pull that. Now that's a tricky issue. Very, very tricky for me because
the bottom line is, as far as I am aware, that the Referendum Act does not make the results of a referendum binding.
But
that's the bottom. It does not. But it does not mean. It does not mean that the executive branch of government,
the cabinet,
can pursue the special agreement. And I think these are some of the issues that, as we are having these conversations, is good for the Belizean people.
No, but you have to explain because you're not explaining to the people what this special agreement got to do with the results. You said this thing is saying that you must have a referendum.
Yes.
And if the people vote yes, we're going here to the ICJ. If they vote no, we're going nowhere.
The referendum, the law itself is saying that it is not binding.
Yes, but this one, they contradict the law.
And those are where some of the interpretations and the inconsistencies are coming in. And I will say, boil down to which lawyer go argue and argue better. But I think the chicken and egg, I think what we need to be, for me, I think the clarity on it, and for the Belizean people, is that the only way your borders can be changed is through a constitutional amendment.
I mean, you have to change the constitution.
That means you have to change the constitution, the provisions of the constitution that defines our borders. You have to go to the National Assembly, put forward a constitutional amendment which is going to say our borders are going to change from that which is in the 1859 treaty and that which is provided to us under the law of sea, which gives us our 12 miles territorial sea, and so on and so forth. You have to go there. What is happening now is that the government, having passed this piece of legislation, when it comes to the special agreement, does not have anything definitive to take to the National Assembly to say this is how our borders are going to be changed if such a if such a ruling should take place by the ICJ. Rather, they simply put something to the Belizean people that say we go for this matter to go to the ICJ, and when the ICJ rules, if it should change our borders, right, then we have to give effect to that. But on their own, they cannot. And this
sounds
is the
like we were in a court for a while.
But
you sound like we were in a court for a while.
In my opinion,
but Caroline,
you cannot
you are
give
wrong.
effect
You are
to
wrong.
a ruling which
Because you're
violates
acting like
our
liar.
No, the
Constitution meaningless.
But 200 give for the interpretation.
The
That's all.
Constitution says that if any amendment, I don't have the right section, but it will be good. That basically says if you're going to amend the Constitution, this is the process that you go through.
Yes, yes, Caroline.
Our Constitution have, let me finish, Bill.
Yes, but
our Constitution have in Schedule 1 what the boundaries of the territory of Belize is, because only by that boundary does the government of Belize exercise control over. This is why when you hear the conversation as, oh, we give up territory because we not got control over the Sasu, these things are important. Because you're exercising control. It's your constitution that gives you that. And remember, that same constitution and that boundary was accepted by the United Nations. And at our borders, people come, show them passport. And so we do have these things.
Yes,
however,
we kind of take long and the time.
No,
you have to give
however,
time.
yes,
Good
however,
but that she that
the constitution say if you want to change that, you have to come. But you have to come with where you want to change it with. At this point in time, the government no got nothing, no settlement. So the government now, they say, like we go to the ICJ for make the ICJ determine what those boundaries, and this is why I say it's a chicken and egg situation.
But what is it that you don't agree with that Caroline said?
What Caroline is saying is theoretically true. But I live in a real world, and in my world where I live, the Israeli gone and take what was known as the Golan Heights from Syria by force, gun, take it, own it, not giving it up, and then declare it part of my territory. And then the biggest power on earth, the United States, come and say, I agree, that belongs to Israel, no longer belongs to Syria. What are you going to do? Your constitution could say anything, but that's just one piece of paper we tear up, because the fact is, on the ground, Israel owned the Golan Heights, and nothing when nobody, no law, when change that fact. Law only important as long as somebody is willing to enforce. When in Belize, the Supreme Court made an order and told the commissioner to do certain things with Penna, the commissioner refused. Who is going to force the commissioner? It has to be the police or the army, because our military thing at the end of the day, the force. If I tell you move, you don't want to move, and I take one gun, what you going to do? You want to move. Because you got no choice. No paper mean nothing that the gun mean at the end of the day. Now, in Belize and Guatemala case, this thing say it is binding and final. And nobody, only God could come down and tell me, Belinda, you're going, I know I lose. I know you want to lose. You have to lose. The law will deal with human beings. The human beings will deal with. And then judges, why you think 192 countries, but only 65 accept the ICJ? 132, the vast majority refuse. Because no foreigner will tell me what are my territory. Out of your mind. That's not you can't determine that. That don't determine that for me. So no judge will tell me no fool. Boy, that not for you. Oh yeah? Come move me if you have to come with your gun. And here's something. Belize and Guatemala. The ICJ go and say Toledo district belongs to Guatemala. You think the constitution of Belize will do? What you think them politicians you got in power and do? Every one of them going to the National Assembly of Belmont and they vote aye because they're afraid. Because they know whether they vote yes or no, meaningless, the Guatemalan military will come and take it. And on our be refugee, on our economy, on going in the sea, go to England and America where they encourage you to die where you belong.
Bill, let me
That's the reality of where we live, man.
We're overdue to close out the show. I want to ask this question and then read the comments. Is, Caroline, I asked the question on Sunday Review timeline. Does the government of Belize, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have a responsibility for release all diplomatic notes when they sent to Guatemala as it relates to Gulf aggression in of we waters by Sarastun Island and of Belizean people? Do they have that responsibility?
Two things. One, I want to say with Bill that there is no way what he said that I disagree with, simply because I put out as it is in the law. And that is why I have sat at this table every time I come and I have said, we sleep with our own eyes because there is no Messiah out there that is going to have our interests at heart. Every country have their own agenda and Belize must have their agenda. So I just wanted to be clear that I'm not saying all that he has said is not wrong. There's a reality to it. But we can't sit down and just basically say, oh, that is the case and don't do anything about it. So as I'm going back to your thing, I am one of those persons who have also argued that the Belize government has failed, both from 1981, in excluding the Belizean people in this whole process and journey of conversations and negotiations and dialogue with the Guatemalan people. They have monopolized it and said only the political elite, it's only the foreign ministers, only the legal people could have conversations. So because they have taken that perspective, they have excluded us. Yes, I believe every step of the way, we must know what is happening. We must know every time they send a note, not only to the Guatemalan people and the government, but also how are we internationalizing it? How are we making everybody know? We are trying to live in peace and harmony, but these are the things this country over there. When I listen to our foreign ministers speak about friends, Guatemala ain't no friend, now our enemy, for crying out loud. They are an enemy. I wanted to mention this here, just give me an opportunity. A statement someone made on Facebook, I won't call their name because I know the issue, they're not personal issue. There was a conversation about the cross country and the fact that there could have been a conspiracy to bring in 3 Guatemalans to run the race and win the race. Considering what is happening now, somebody said that the crackpot. Now, when you have people who does not even entertain the possibility that from the time that country over there declared that Belize is theirs, their unfounded claim, that they have set in motion a plan, which we think we so smart, we call them friend. They have set a place where they are making it, they use the term by right or by might. So everything they do, they calculate to ensure that it is bolstering their case on the ground in the legal fraternity, regionally, wherever. So you can't tell me that we should discount the possibility that they look at this cross country and know how much we love this cross country, how much pain we had when non-Belizean with. And then I say, you know what, make we link up with this cycling people and find 3 people who could go over there and bust them balloon.
But
don't tell me it can't happen.
What do you mean it can't? It happen.
This is the point I'm making.
That's the real world.
We cannot exclude these possibilities.
And then when we look at what the new date, and it's like the closer we get, especially because the 10th was postponed, look what happened when we went to the Sarstoon. Now they put a bigger gunboat that you cannot even get in. So as we move closer to the proposed date, and in particular when we find out what happens tomorrow, so let's say tomorrow the judgment is that there will not be a referendum on the 8th. We don't know, we have to be on the lookout for how Guatemala will respond. Let me read these 2 texts, it's very important before we lock off that I read these 2 texts. One said, I truly believe that the referendum voting should have been at voting centers instead of by constituents, just like how Oceania conducted their referendum. And this person, Bill, I give this message to Kerry, like come back water for your party. The person said, make the answer if PUP will text out the result. PUP and text out the result, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, on the hear it, right? PUP and text out the result, Bill.
Definitely, you think you can tolerate foolishness?
Okay.
Well, if you're not texting it out, they won't keep you. They won't keep you.
Okay. I don't know if it's 12:15 for lock off 12 o'clock, so I don't think we got time for final thoughts. But I definitely want. I never said that ad. That the first day I said that ad will run just. They say the run since Friday. It's called the ICJ Guatemala Claim Everything ad. I just have. I not declare my position, but when I say creativity at its best, and especially when they include Creole, I gotta rate that ad. I see it directly again. They start to run on Krem TV for Friday. Before we go, I want definitely every chance I get. I just give credit, we get the ad fan Channel 5, Dickie Bradley made to get an interview. So thanks a million, Caroline, for being here. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody who texting. Please, every time, well, I don't know if we're going to have a referendum the 10th. We have to wait for hear what happen tomorrow. But until we have our referendum, when Sunday review here, every segment I want to hear this clip.
But
yes,
nothing
Bill.
might happen tomorrow, no, careful.
Why?
Tomorrow is the beginning of the case management.
Oh.
Careful. You know what the case management? You go down and sit down and we talk about the rules and who will file this, who will file
not
that.
tomorrow.
Well,
it starts. You never know what will happen.
You don't know what will happen.
Keep on the ears, but that case close to the radio and the TV
but
and the
starts.
streets.
And now that the different thing and the amendments are in and stuff, You don't know what happened.
All right then.
You
So
don't
tell
know.
then, the reason people want to run this ad and I realize that they get excited and they holler themselves the whole show. I'm so sorry. I know they never touch me. I don't know how to touch me.
Excitement,
I get excited.
man.
So me no deal with them people who say no emotions in this. That just facts. Remember now, the law profession is not an ethical position. You hear what I tell you? It's not ethical. You hear what I tell you? Then they have to defend the client.
That's
so whoever
right.
got the biggest money, you are pull what you have to pull for make the client. You know me, I never do the thing, another thing that just want to win. So remember that, people. So bearing that in mind, would they listen to, this is what most important for me, that Belizean people understand the referendum question, will they never read it. That
No.
Belizean people understand the question and the consequence of what they answer. Secondly, understand what the risks are after you understand the question. That's why I play this clip where we end the show with over and over again, that you understand that there are risks that we could lose territory. They're not just a frighten you, real talk. There are risks that we could lose the territory. So until next Sunday, have a fantastic Sunday.
This one goes out
Jian
to
Gandhi in March of 2009 comes from India and took this country as his beloved country. He stayed here and worked with change of governments. They don't like him, and like him. He's excellent. He's extra. What's the word? He's exceptionally good public officer. Mr. Gandhi wrote advising the government of Belize, the Prime Minister of Belize, in the 12th of March 2009. No matter what the strength of Belize's case may be under international law, the possibility of some territorial adjustment by Belize cannot be ruled out. In fact, it would be surprising to the point of incredulity, incredible, unbelievable, if the ICJ adjudication were to result in a wholesale rejection of Guatemala's claim. It would be incredible if that should happen, given the nature and the composition of the International Court of Justice. It follows that the possible alteration of Belize's existing boundaries, as set out in Schedule 1 of the Constitution, consequent upon the ICJ adjudication, is a live issue and must be fully addressed before any steps are taken to ratify the special agreement.
That's a major...
And this is from?
Wow.
Jian Gandhi, who was the former Solicitor General
Yes.
of Belize, extraordinary.
No, printed where?
one. In his legal opinion to the Prime Minister of Belize in March of 2009, he also said this, and I don't like
It's never been shared before.
After seeing Sir Eli's response, Mr. Gandhi wrote on the 13th of March 2009, he thought that view was overconfident of Belize's case, and he pointed to Sir Eli's admission that, quoting, there is always a risk of losing in court proceedings. That is, he's quoting from Sir Eli, remote as in that be in the present case. In Mr. Gandhi's view, quote again, this is Gandhi, it would not be enough to tell the Belizeans that Belize has an exceptionally strong case on the merits. Belizeans would want a cast iron guarantee that there would be no loss of Belizean territory in any circumstances. Sir Eli, Gandhi says, candidly admits that the court is not always predictable and that he, Sir Eli, could be wrong. Why were we not told this? This was in writing from March 2009. You know what they do?
Where do you get it?
Yeah.
I can't reveal my sources, but...
But it's never been published.
Well, it's published now.
But we can't verify it either. If we
Well,
bring
you
it.
can now verify it.
Patriots, all people who love them country, bad love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This happy week, we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This happy week, we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. Don't tell me about maritime area.